Chapter 1. All humans have a blind spot that determines their behavior. Just like all vertebrates have a blind spot in each eye, the brain's visual cortex also experiences its own form of blindness, albeit more dramatic. It's called the blind sight. The retinal blind spot and cynical blind sight are both metaphors that help in understanding thoughts and feelings that we are not aware of, but which, nevertheless, guide our behavior. The hidden bias blind spot has some features of both the retinal blind spot and blind sight. Just as is the case with retinal blind spots, we normally have no awareness of hidden biases, and, like the dramatic workings of clinical blind sight, hidden biases are capable of guiding our behavior while we ourselves are oblivious of this guidance. Hidden biases can cause us to judge and act toward others in favorable or unfavorable ways that come from unrecognized feelings and beliefs about the groups to which people belong. And while it is quite unbelievable that our behavior might be guided in this fashion, without us being aware of it, scientists have confirmed the existence of this blind spot. This summary gives deep insight to the concept of hidden bias blind spot and helps us discover hidden biases of our own. Chapter 2. Humans often demonstrate biases based on mental, perceptive, or visual errors. As humans, we often routinely use information around us without being aware that we are doing it or of how unconsciously we are doing it. Understanding mind bugs as mental adaptations sets the stage for understanding the concept of hidden bias blind spot. The various types of mind bugs include: Number 1. Visual mind bugs. This is a famous visual illusion, one that produces an error in the mind's ability to perceive a pair of objects as they actually are. Such erroneous mind bugs are called ingrained habits of thought that lead to errors in how we perceive, remember, reason, and make decisions. Number 2. Memory mind bugs. We often experience a memory error called false alarm when we mistakenly remember what didn't occur. Mind bugs can be powerful enough to produce greater recollection of things that didn't occur than of things that actually did occur. Number 3. Availability and anchoring mind bugs. When instances of a particular type of event come more easily to mind than those of another type, we tend to assume that the first event must also occur more frequently in the world. Greater ease of availability to the mind, however, doesn't mean greater frequency of occurrence in the world. Number 4. Social mind bugs. As humans, we often fail to perceive individuals as individuals. They're often viewed as representatives of particular social groups. Strategies that arise both from inappropriate trust and from inappropriate distrust bear the imprint of automatic decisions made on the basis of group membership. Economists, sociologists, and psychologists have confirmed that the social group to which a person belongs can be the definitive cause of the disparate treatment he or she receives. Our work has led us to think about single ordinary instances: a smile or a suspicious look, a bank loan approved or rejected, a decision to stop and search, to promote or let go, to investigate with further medical tests or not. Each individual act involves but a single decision that one mind makes about another, and it is here that we must look for mind bugs. Social mind bugs are not restricted to decisions based on a person's race or ethnicity. They stem from the existence of psychologically or socially meaningful human groups. Social groups such as gender, religion, class, sexuality, disability, and profession are great influences on behavior. Chapter 3. There are several varieties of untruth that occur in the process of answering questions. There exist forces that work to shade our answers away from the truth. Oftentimes, we are dimly aware of these forces as they reflect a diverse set of motivations, including a desire to be accurate and truthful. Lies are categorized under different levels, described by colors and shades. Number 1. White lies. These are untruths told with the intention to avoid boring, burdening, or hurting the person to whom the untruth is told. White lies are called white, presumably because of the purity and innocence associated with the color white. Number 2. Gray lies. These untruths are a bit less innocent than white lies. Like white lies, gray lies are motivated to spare feelings, except the feelings being spared are the teller's feelings, not someone else's. Number 3. Colorless lies. These are the things people keep from themselves. They are called colorless lies because they are invisible to those who utter them. For instance, if a man asked how many cigarettes he smokes a day, the answer he gives may underestimate the truth. Even though he sees his answer as wholly truthful, colorless lies are also called self-deception. Number 4. Red lies. Red lies are ones that potentially confer survival and reproductive benefits to the teller. There is the possibility that these untruths have an evolutionary basis. They may have evolved to be part of human nature. The best scientific explanation to this is how animal species display survival-enhancing forms of deceit. For instance, insects deter predators through mimicry. They look or behave like members of species that are poisonous or foul-tasting, making it more likely that they will be avoided than eaten. Number 5. Blue lies. Occasionally, we all give answers we know are untrue, for the paradoxical and totally strange reason that we actually believe the answer to be more essentially truthful than the actual truth. For instance, a regular voter who neglected to vote last Tuesday might answer yes to the question of whether he or she voted or not because, truth be told, he or she is a regular voter. Our daily social lives demand, and generally receive, repeated lubrication with a certain amount of untruthfulness, which keeps the gears of social interaction meshing smoothly. Sadly, what works in social life does not serve the interests of science. Lies remain what they are, lies. Chapter 4. Our actions and inactions, as well as our feelings toward other people, can be influenced by societal standardization. Our preferences, what and whom we favor or reject, nurture or thwart, approach or avoid, can take different forms. These are two psychological systems that characterize the mind. Number 1, the reflective side. This is the innately conscious part of humans that makes them dare to be different. For instance, if the reflective side of someone's mind is gay-friendly, such a person can honestly say that he or she believes that there's nothing wrong with being gay. Number 2, the automatic side. This can simply be described as the cultural norms. A person might believe that there's nothing wrong with being gay, but if they're a product of the culture that treats homosexuality as a psychological disorder or abomination, their thoughts, feelings, and behavior might be influenced. This explains why people feel shame at the thought that they might be viewed as gays. We know our reflective preferences quite well, especially when they concern matters important to us. For example, we can voice our religious beliefs, or the lack thereof. We can articulate why a particular candidate for political office is the right or wrong choice. Consciously, we can even make statements that are cognitively and emotionally complex, such as, although I would probably gain by the election of X, I will vote for Y, whom I regard to be better for the country as a whole. Sometimes such beliefs and preferences are also mirrored in actions. The automatic side of our mind, on the other hand, is a quite different entity. It's a stranger to us. We implicitly know something or feel a certain way, and often these thoughts and feelings are reflected in our actions. The difference being that we can't always explain these actions, and they are at times completely at odds with our conscious intentions. For instance, if a girl meets a charming and intelligent guy, and he tells her he's an undertaker, her reflective side will no doubt muster up some enthusiasm. However, before she knows it, she is likely to feel an automatic revulsion that one is likely to feel for someone associated with dead bodies. Every day, automatic preferences steer us toward less conscious decisions, but they're hard to explain because they remain impervious to the probes of conscious motivation. Chapter 5. The human mind is designed to form a stereotype based on social groups that we apply to people. The natural immediate reaction to the story above is puzzlement. That's because automatic mental associations can cause us to think male upon reading surgeon. The association that automatically places surgeons as male is part of a stereotype. There's also a likely error in judgment, in this case, a failure or delay in figuring out that the surgeon must be a boy's mother. The father and his son are in a car accident. The father dies at the scene, and the son, badly injured, is rushed to the hospital. In the operating room, the surgeon looks at the boy and says, "I can't operate on this boy. He is my son." Anonymous. Getting tripped up by this riddle is quite annoying, especially for feminists. How can a feminist make such a mistake that clashes with their personal views? This is because the human mind creates a huge mental library that rapidly retrieves stereotypical knowledge that we apply to any new encounter. This application is not conscious. Stereotypes are often used as the starting point of our perception of a person. Old people are forgetful. Koreans are shy. Boston drivers are aggressive. Women are nurturing. Each of these captures an association that connects a group with an attribute. But are stereotypes accurate? In some way, almost any stereotype is true. How can you possibly disagree? For example, that women are nurturing. As correct as it could be, any stereotype is at least partly false. there will always be members of the stereotyped group to whom the stereotype doesn't apply. For example, there are surely outgoing Koreans and male feminists. Because all stereotypes are partly true and partly false, their accuracy might be hard to determine. Nevertheless, we can say that some stereotypes are more valid than the others. For example, the stereotype that has it that feminist equals female is more valid than the position that Boston driver equals aggressive. It is reasonably important to check whether any stereotype is valid enough so that it would be wise to be guided by it when we know nothing about a person other than the group identification. Chapter 6. Stereotypes operate outside awareness, and its application can be harmful. Possessing a stereotype is often understandable, but the application of the stereotype to an individual can be problematic. A primary care physician had once told a female patient during a checkup that she didn't need routine blood cholesterol screening, but another doctor friend urged her to press her doctor for the test. Surprisingly, when the results came back, the patient learned that her cholesterol levels were high enough to warrant starting a drug regimen immediately. This is how risky applying stereotypes to people can be. When the doctor decided that the patient didn't need a cholesterol test, he wasn't consciously thinking that she was unworthy or that he should protect the insurance company's resources by not ordering the test. The error likely emanated from a simple mental image of the average cardiac patient, male, possibly overweight, probably sedentary. And the patient, a fit and physically active woman, didn't match that prototype. To further illustrate is a description below of two damaging outgroup stereotypes that associate black men with weapons and deny American Asians the same citizenship accorded to white Americans. Number 1. The black equals harmful stereotype. The belief that African Americans are criminals persists even though the likelihood of any given black male being a criminal is low. Needless to say, the existence of a stereotype associating a given group with violence and crime is grave and has important implications for the individual, the group, the resources needed to combat crime, and ultimately for the integrity of a functioning society. The stereotype of blacks has played a role in police officers mistaking a black citizen's wallet, or any other harmless object, for a gun. Stereotypes like this are harmful as they actively drive life or death decisions. Number 2. The American equals white stereotype. The term citizenship has a clear and precise meaning legally. We know that two individuals, one with European grandparents, the other with Chinese grandparents who were both born and raised in the United States, are equally American. But irrespective of the legal parity between the two, are they perceived as equal Americans? Stereotypical biases like these can be mentally devastating. There is a burden of suspicion that certain individuals in every society carry around because they belong to a group whose status in society is suspect. Did you know? In 1970, fewer than 10% of the instrumentalists in America's major symphony orchestras were women, and women made up less than 20% of new orchestra hires. Chapter 7. While hidden biases cannot always be eliminated, there are effective ways to neutralize them. Mind bugs are usually outsmarted. However, people often do not get the point. Instead of trying to outsmart them, why not deal with them the way computer programmers deal with computer program bugs? Just identify them and get rid of them. Unfortunately, effective methods for removing the mind bugs that contribute to hidden biases have yet to be convincingly established. Mind bugs are dauntingly persistent. Therefore, it appears necessary to find workarounds for mind bugs, at least for the time being. This brings us back to the outsmarting strategy. That possibility of outsmarting, rather than eradicating, has served well in many places, especially in dealing with incurable diseases. For malaria, for example, outsmarting strategies include preventive strategies, such as the use of mosquito nets and the sterilization of disease-bearing mosquitoes. For HIV, outsmarting strategies include the use of condoms to prevent sexual transmission and, perhaps most ingeniously, a variety of antiretroviral drugs. We can outsmart mind bugs by Number 1. Bypassing them. This method is also called a no-brainer solution. Applying a guideline to eliminate a yes or no judgment from the decision to administer a test is an effective way to bypass a mind bug. Number 2. Using the numerical way. It is tempting to assume that judgments expressed in numbers guarantee objectivity and a bias-free treatment. However, by themselves, numbers do not guarantee freedom either from hidden bias mind bugs or from more deliberate bias. It is not clear how to go about either eliminating or outsmarting self-directed mind bugs. However, they may prove modifiable by exposure to role models. Mass media are potentially rich sources for counter-stereotypic role models. For example, media exposures to attractive, healthy, and vital elders may help counter mind bugs triggered by automatic old equals infirm associations. Conclusion. It is clear now that as humans we demonstrate biases to be unwanted consequences of mental adaptations that may have been evolutionarily helpful in our species' past. We've seen how the psychology of hidden biases is exuded in how the feelings and beliefs we have towards others are shaped by our feelings and beliefs about the group to whom they belong. Mental operations like stereotypes are a big influence on the actions we take and judgments we make towards others in our everyday life. Age, race, sex, ethnicity, occupation, and social class are undoubtedly determinants of how we feel towards an individual. And even though we are often unconscious of it, the social group an individual belongs to definitely affects our attitude towards them. In-group members are treated differently from out-group members. This explains the concept of white supremacy. African Americans are treated differently, as are Asian Americans, even though legally they are as American as white Americans. And above nationality and cultural roots, everybody is as human as the other person. Just like the author of Blindspot, we have been confronted with our blind spots. So we need to be more conscious about how we form opinions on people and act towards them. It is helpful for everyone to discover their hidden biases and work on it. The world would be a much safer and enjoyable place if everyone treated the other person equally and without bias. Try this. To discover hidden biases of your own, visit the website implicit.harvard.edu, where you can sample multiple IATs with complete anonymity, adding to the 14 million tests that have already been sampled.